communicate with architects a little better on their level because you now kind of have an understanding of different architectural styles.
Hello and welcome to the Ask the Masters podcast. This podcast is dedicated to discussions about the design and construction of water shapes. The hosts of the show are all certified SWD Masters who represent the leading builders and designers within the water shaping industry today.
So we're talking with Nikko Baumann from Creative Environments in Alamo, California. How you doing today, Nikko?
Good, thanks. I'm really happy to be here in beautiful Southern California. It's a little cold today, but kind of brings me back up to the Bay Area.
Good. It's good to see you again. Haven't seen you for a couple of months. So what Genesis class are you taking down here? 20th century architecture, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, we're taking 20th century architecture. Incredible instructor. Pulled him from a university, and you can really tell in the way, the elegance that he speaks. He's really a creative master, and he speaks in a way that he's able to articulate and reach people of different backgrounds and mediums. Me personally, I am not an architect. I believe I have an architectural eye, but I don't have any background or knowledge or experience with the fundamentals to base it off of. And I find that this class is able to reach me on a very personal level that does not disengage the other professionals in the room that do have a more structured background.
So do you think after this class, from what you've just finished day one, do you think after day two that you're going to be able to now recognize architectural styles and maybe better integrate your water features to match the architectural style of the home?
You know, that's why I'm here. That's what anyone could hope to get from the class, and certainly Genesis has a reputation of bringing in wonderful speakers and giving a great experience through their classes. I can definitely say that from today I've learned a lot just being in this room here, being able to recognize different styles, the different influences. You can understand where the architect may have pulled their different influences. I think, going back to anything, before I was a neuroscience major, I actually studied film, and when they teach you film, they didn't bring us into the digital medium immediately. They would go into the classics, and you're working on, regular film with a Minolta camera, and just going back to anything and understanding the history of where things were sourced from, the origin of ideas, the genesis of ideas, I think is able to help you come back with a new creative approach. And going back to your question, am I able to look at certain things and understand where the different ideas might have come from? Yes, absolutely. Especially residential home architecture. Not everything is as elaborate as some of the things we're seeing in there, but it definitely takes some of those more dramatic scenarios to be able to go back into a more residential understanding.
Do you think that after this class it's also going to help you communicate with architects a little better on their level because you now kind of have an understanding of different architectural styles and how they evolved over the centuries?
Sure, absolutely. I think, one thing about an architect is they definitely kind of have their own vision and a sort of ego of being the person that's manipulating the backyard or designing it. And it might be refreshing that there's another person that's able to kind of speak eye to eye, or at least understand some of their concepts and some of their the origin of their ideas.
Do you think that you're going to have kind of a new sense of materials and a new way that you approach integrating colors and materials into projects after taking this course?
Yeah, I mean, maybe not so much colors yet. I don't know that we've gone into colors just quite yet, but definitely structure and material composition. Just kind of brainstorming, getting creative. I think that's what anyone that envisions himself as being creative does when you're in a class surrounded by that many brilliant professionals, and you're getting inspired by such famous works that your brain is just running and you're constantly thinking about different projects you've done or different projects that haven't even been, you're conceptualizing them, in that moment. And you're wondering how you can creatively use different materials just by that little tiny thing.
One of the things obviously that I hope that you're getting out of this course is that you can see how the different generations of architects, everybody's building on the previous generation or the previous, I don't want to say fad, but the previous genre of what was popular at the time. And you can kind of see how one kind of morphs into the next and morphs into the next and how everything evolves. Do you see yourself going back and maybe deconstructing some of your prior projects and not physically wanting to go in and remodel them, but saying, hey, how could I have done that project different and use that as a learning experience moving forward?
Absolutely. I think exactly what you just said was kind of the definition and birth of modernism. Just that going back to basic concepts and simplicity. I think that's what every artist does. You're constantly, reevaluating. I do it with the photos that I take, for example. You're always learning more, and you're always going to want to look back and change certain things. You're never satisfied with your work. I mean, you might be satisfied at the time, but it's constantly evolving. Things are constantly changing. There's always new information. So yeah, absolutely.
You just described married life.
That's all you're
it's
sitting
constantly
on that
evolving, and there's constantly new information. And you're constantly reevaluating.
That's art. It's constantly evolving and adapting, and I don't think that architecture is alone in that. A new generation or a wave is constantly building on what's there and trying to. I don't know if they're always trying to be better. They're just trying to be different. They're trying to differentiate themselves. It's you can see it in music, you can see it in television and film, and certainly art in general, not just architecture. So everything's always evolving, and you have a newer, younger generation. Even in politics, you got a younger generation with their own ideas. And architecture.
However socialist they might be, yes, I get it.
So architecture is one of those things. People are always trying to find a way to do things differently, and that's why we're here. We're here.
I think architecture is one of those fields, though, where the change is much more subtle and much more gradual. I mean, you have a few architects who are pushing that outer envelope, who are like the Frank Gehry's, who are pushing the outer fringes. But I think the mainstream architects have it's a longer life cycle between the changes in style. Of course, being here in California, we have a lot of the Mediterranean, Moorish influences, and a lot of the McMansions, and these imported palm trees and things that we see them everywhere. And it's unusual when you see that 20th century modern home with the glass and concrete, something that's. So what do you think the next architectural style is going to be? Where do you think it's going to go?
Well, to touch on what you're saying, I think it is slower. But if you think about it, not only is it historically influenced, it's also susceptible to, and it's a necessity and birth of technology. Just what we've been seeing, how technology had influenced these different modernism styles because of what was available. Larger panels of glass. The ability to bend glass, larger pieces of, being able to work with steel, period. As new elements are incorporated into building, as new things become available, things become stronger, better, that certainly opens up different possibilities of design and what's possible, because right now, what's limiting architecture as opposed to film or music or any of these other things, and what you're saying architecture is different, is you're working with physics and gravity and engineering. There is a limitation in what can be built and what can be designed, and I think that's part of what slows it down is, and what makes it take longer is the technological advancement.
Do you think part of that is the clients are adverse to risk, and therefore architecture doesn't evolve as quickly because there are fewer clients with A, the financial resources, and B, willing to take a risk to build something that's never been built before and take that risk of it being a failure?
Absolutely. I mean, just listening to some of Frank Lloyd Wright's buildings that did fail or leaked, or the people that do have that kind of financial capital to be able to throw at something like that. I mean, there's so many unknowns in building something new. It's going to be more expensive than anything that's been built, and you don't really know how much money you're going to be into it for, and it could cost twice as much as what something simple or something that existed might have cost, because it is new. It's brand new, and yeah, absolutely. There's something scary about that. Who has enough money to give somebody the complete autonomous control over the design process and kind of close their eyes and say, make me something new.
So do you see that as your ultimate goal as a pool designer and builder, to getting to that phase or getting to that point where you can work with those clients and build something that's never been built before and something that's never been engineered before with that, I don't want to say a blank check, but with...
Absolutely. I mean, as a 25-year-old, I've been in this industry for a while. That's definitely the reason why I find myself here at Genesis, is to learn from the best of the best. It's really incredibly inspiring to be around these people. And what you're describing is a prestigiousness of achievement to... If you were to attain that level where you're working with clients, that they believed and trusted in your own abilities to such a high, pristine level that they could trust you to go build something brand new or, free of borders or barriers, absolutely. I would love to get to that point, because not only would I be working with those clients and building those, groundbreaking projects, but it would mean that I had reached a level of professionalism that was extremely well received by everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Ask the Masters podcast, and don't forget to check out our Facebook page each week on Tuesdays for new episodes of the show. I also want to encourage you to stop by the Ask the Masters Facebook page and invite other like-minded individuals to join us there as well. Feel free to jump into the conversations and even post your own questions. We want to create a community which fosters learning and discovery for the betterment of us all. You can also subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. Please be sure to subscribe and feel free to share.